Let's do some more SQL coding. This question appeared in the interviews of Amazon and Etsy. In this question, they're asking, given a phone log table that has information about callers' call history, find out the callers whose first and last calls were to the same person on a given day. What that means is they want to know if this person picked up his or her phone on a given day. The first call was to, let's say, this person X, and the last call on that specific day was also to this person X. So they want to know the people who followed this pattern, aka their first and last calls were to the same person on a given day. So we want to know all those people who did that. Output their caller ID, recipient ID, and the date called. So the first thing that I always do is to see what's inside that table. So let's copy that, do select star from that table. And as you can see, we have this information here. We have caller ID. These are the people who are making the calls. Recipient ID, the people who are receiving those calls. And the date those calls were made. Okay. As you can see here, we have this date time here. It's not just date. We have date and we also have the time here. I'll show you how to extract just the date from here because we'll be needing that, right? So I'm going to build this question up step by step. And I'll be taking a very simple approach. I'll be using window function here. The reason for that is I want to number the rows. And what I mean by rows, I'll show you real quick. So let me start here by outputting some of the columns that I need for my question here. So recipient ID, I'm just retyping those columns here again. Date called, and let's run it. It's going to be the same thing. Now, what I want to do here is I want to do sort of numbering. Okay, so what I want to do here is, again, I want to number the rows based on the calls. Okay, so let's say I have I'm just going to draw this here so you understand what's going on. So we have this caller ID 1, right? 1 1 1. I want to sort his call logs based on the date called. So I want to sort them in ascending order, meaning 9 a.m. comes first, then 17, then 23, right? It's all already sorted here, but if it's not sorted, I want to do that again. And then I want to number them. So I'm going to have a new column here. Let's say row number. Okay. Row number. It's not a good sketch, but you get the idea. That's the row number. And then I'm going to label this as 1, this as 2, and this as 3. Okay. For this guy here, caller ID 2, I want to sort this again for this caller ID on this specific day. And then I want to do row numbering there. So I want to do this 705, 705. And you see this, that they actually changed here for this guy. So this will be one partition. This will be one partition because I'm doing caller partition by caller ID and the date called 705, 705, 705, right? So and then inside that partition, I'm going to do row numbering starting in the ascending order of the time. 1, 2, 3. Okay. So you get the idea, hopefully, that I'm doing numbering of these rows, aka the partition by caller ID and the date, and then I'm doing the numberings there. So this is for the ascending one, and I'll do something similar for the descending one. So let's do this first, and then we'll focus on the descending one. So let's remove that, and let's focus on the row number here. Row number is a type of window function. Row number, whenever we use row number, you got to use over by clause, over partition by caller ID. You just saw the logic why, partition by caller ID, and then we're also going to add date there, right? So date called, again, I don't want the date time, I want the date called for a specific day. How do you do that? You can extract the day from the date time by using this here. You can coerce the date. You can extract the date by doing this. So now we have partition by caller ID and by that day. And let's do order by date called. And when you don't specify anything here like DESC or anything like that, that means it's in ascending order, meaning starting from the earliest time. Okay, row number. And let's run this now. And as you can see, we got what I was just explaining to you. We have the numbered rows here based on the partition of the caller ID and the date. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 again here for this caller ID here. 2, we did a partition on the caller ID, and then on the day here, day is 705, 705, 705, 1, 2, 3. So that makes sense, hopefully. So as I said, I'm going to be doing the same thing for the descending date time. And the reason for that is I'll just show you real quick. So let's run this first. It's the same thing, add DESC for descending date time. Okay, as you can see, let's focus on this caller ID 1. The last call that he made on that day, which is January 1st here, January 1st, the last call that he made was at 11 p.m. right? And that's the row number 1 now. Right now the recipient ID is 4, right? What was the recipient ID first thing in the morning for this caller ID? Let's run that again and see. So the first thing in the morning for row number 1 is recipient ID 2. The last call that he made was for recipient 4, right? So this is not our guy. This is not our candidate, because in order for this to be our candidate, he should be calling the same person first thing in the morning and last thing on that given day. Okay, so this is not our guy. So, but hopefully you get the idea. By this logic, I'm actually comparing the two CTEs, because I'm going to be putting this into a CTE, aka common table expression. I'll be comparing them, and then I'll be making sure that these row numbers are matching. Okay, the row number for this CTE matches the row number for this CTE, and also I want to make sure that the recipient matches. Here they don't match, because here the recipient is 2, and in the descending one the recipient is 4. So this is not our candidate. Obviously I'm repeating myself again and again, but hopefully you get the idea. And I'll show you again what I mean by that. So with CTE1, let's put this into CTE real quick. That's how you do it. And this, let's call this guy CTE2 as, okay. So we have 2 CTEs now, and let's do CTE1, right? We have the CTE1, and they are asking output the caller ID, recipient ID, and the date called. Okay, so first, before that, let's do an inner join on the CTE2 on CTE1 dot recipient ID equals CTE2 dot recipient ID. You know what? Let's make it in a proper sequence here. So on CTE1 dot caller ID, because we gotta make sure first that both caller IDs matches, right? We're trying to compare exactly the same information in both the CTEs, so we gotta make sure all that information matches, right? All of that information needs to match. So CTE dot caller ID, and okay, so your caller ID matching in both CTEs, we have recipient matching in both CTEs, and also date. We gotta make sure that we're talking the same days, right, when we're doing the comparison. So CTE1 dot date called equals CTE2 dot date called, right? And the last thing, we gotta make sure that rows match, right? The row numbers match actually. So the row number 1 should match the row number 1 of the other CTE. CTE1 dot row number equals CTE2 dot row number. Okay, and let's run this now. Let's see what we get. Select star, right? Let's just output the columns that they're asking here in the question. Output the caller ID. Okay, so let's do, and I'm using CT1, but you can do CTE2 as well. So caller ID. What else? Recipient ID. They're asking, and they're asking the date called. Okay, so that means they're asking CTE1 date called, but date call is a date time. I guess they're asking for that specific day, right? So there you have it. And I'm also going to show you the row number here just for demo purposes. CTE1 dot row number. And there you have it. We have rows from 2 to 1 and 2. That's interesting. We only want row numbers when they're equal to 1, right? Because we got to make sure that the first call matches with the last call of that day. The last call here has the row number as 1. The first call here has the row number 1. So let's do where CTE1 dot row number equals 1. Okay, that's interesting. I'm getting this one here. I'm only getting 1 record. That's interesting. From CTE1, CTE2, CTE caller ID. Okay, that looks good. Oh, that is interesting. I messed up here. Date called here is not really a date, right? It's actually a date time. So that's the thing with that. It's actually a date time. I gotta only extract that specific day from it, right? And let's see now what we get. Oh, that's nice now. So now we are seeing that specific day, but we are also making sure that we're joining on a specific day. We are not joining on a specific date time. That'll be very, very specific, and that'll be very, will only reduce our records, right? So that's why I have to coerce it to just the date here. So let's run it again. Let's remove the row number. A row number was just for demo purposes. Remove that. And let's run it. And there you have it. That's the right solution.